It's time for the Drugless Doctor. Call a friend or family member now and let them benefit from today's exciting and life-changing program. If you want to lead a healthier life, the time is now.
Hello, this is Dr. Bob, Dr. Anthony, and Dr. Kaysen DeMaria. I'd like to thank you for returning with another episode, second half of the Drugless Doctor. We've been talking about a very interesting topic. It's anti-aging. Our goal in the next short time, we have so much information to give you to slow down the whole aging process. Before I turn this over to Dr. Anthony and Kaysen, your body, I'm going to give you another secret. Don't you just love these little secrets? You want to cover all the lights in your room so you can sleep through the night. You don't want any lights on because it stimulates a part of your brain called the pineal gland, and it does not give you restful, peaceful sleep. But here's what's important. You want to be in bed by 10 because those hours before midnight are significant to your adrenal gland. Your adrenal gland is a very important gland, but your body makes growth hormone at night. Growth hormone promotes healing. Second point, we have many of our practice members that wear the Fitbit or Jawbone. Jawbone and Fitbit can tell you how you're doing your steps, but it also tells you about restful, peaceful sleep. Are you ready? We're going to do a research project on this. Individuals who come into our office for chiropractic adjustments in our practice will come back and tell us, Dr. Bob, Dr. Anthony, Dr. Kaysen, I always have the best night sleep after an adjustment. Your body makes growth hormone at night. Growth hormone is for tissue repair. Cover the lights in your room. Get a Jawbone for Christmas or any other holiday or a Fitbit and start monitoring what's going on. It's amazing what you'll learn. Dr. Anthony.
So a big factor when it comes to anti-aging is environmental exposure to chemicals. Now, this could be cleaning supplies that you're using in your home. This could also be things that you're exposed to your place of work, whether it's a factory. We have a lot of members that are in our office that have worked in factories, and we can test their bodies chemically, and you can see that their physiology and the state that their body works in is different than those that don't work in a factory because of their exposure to chemicals. So minimizing your exposure to chemicals helps your liver. Your liver helps detoxify the body of those toxins. So environmental stresses can also be the foods that you're consuming because of things like herbicides and pesticides that are sprayed on your food. So anything that you can control in your environment as far as being chemical free is going to be a great strategy for anti-aging, because those that have had long-term exposure to chemicals and even short-term exposure to chemicals can greatly impact their ability to age well. So for example, there was a woman who recently passed away who was a topic of national discussion in 2001 after September 11th. There's a picture of her and she was covered in dust. Now, she had a short-term exposure to chemicals from being in the World Trade Center. There's over 3,200 documented cases of people either developing cancer or multiple types of cancer from workers that worked at Ground Zero after September 11th because they had an overload of chemical exposure because of the debris from the national incident that took place on September 11th. So imagine they had a short-term exposure to a lot of chemicals, but imagine if you had a long-term, smaller exposure to those chemicals. It does the same thing to our body. It ages it. It causes the liver to work harder. It promotes things that support cancer in the body. So staying away from those environmental factors will be a long-term success for anti-aging. Dr. Kaysen, what's the next anti-aging strategy?
A lot of times when we talk about also stress, we're talking about environmental stress, but also foods that you're eating. And everyone knows if you were to ask someone, is sugar good for you? They would say, no, it's not good for you, but I like it, or I always crave it. And what we want to do is we want to break that pattern. Break the pattern of the cravings, but also having that responsibility that you have the choice. You have the choice to not consume those things. But deeper than saying no, you want to know why. And sugar takes minerals out of your body, and you need minerals for your body to heal, but also for your skin. So Dr. Bob, when he was sharing about the lady or the woman that was saying that she noticed the sagging of her skin, sugar causes wrinkles. And if you want to work on that elasticity, you want to be working on not consuming the sugar. But also, what's really interesting is a recent article that was just put out was talking about diabetes and how you could actually see and forecast into the future if you're going to develop diabetes. And the markers were phenomenal, that by each point of this specific range, it increased your chance each year that you will develop diabetes by 6%. And they were sharing that by that time that it actually is identified by the traditional medical provider, your pancreas would have already 50% shut down.
Wow. And the number happens to be 84.
Yes.
Your fasting glucose is 84. Every increment up, 6% increase in having that. That is pretty tremendous. What I'm holding in my hand right now is an adult diaper. Depends, or whatever you want, adult pamper, I'm not sure. And I know that there's advertising now about what your number is, how long you can go without either filling this or changing this. My goal to you is you don't want these ever to be on your body, because if you're having that kind of an issue, you're having some major challenges. And I think what's also significant, as Dr. Kaysen was talking about, stress causes an acid pH in your body. An acid pH, listen to this, cannibalizes minerals. Minerals are important to hold everything together. Now, smoking. People who smoke have less sulfur. Sulfur is glue for connective tissue. People who smoke always look older than non-smokers because their body is deficient in sulfur and in other minerals, as Dr. Kaysen was talking about. So minerals are key. And one last thought before I give this to Dr. Anthony. Here's what happens with stress. Stress increases cortisol. Cortisol cannibalizes connective tissue. The more stress you have, the older you look, because the cortisol is taking away connective tissue that helps hold everything together. Dr. A.
Now, something that we haven't quite touched base on yet, and this is really important, and it's one of the topics of discussion in almost every single one of our programs, is sugar. Sugar is one of the things that is going to cause more challenges to your body than any of the other ones, because it's going to deplete your body of minerals, it's going to make you prone to wrinkling, and it's going to cause a variety of other health challenges. So you want to stay away from sugar. Now, what other items can you be doing? We mentioned earlier chiropractic care. Chiropractic care is so important for your anti-aging strategy because it allows the brain to send the right messages to the body and promote healing on the inside. Some other strategies for anti-aging is making sure that you're consuming half your body weight in ounces of water every single day. I ask this question to people all the time. How many people drank half your body weight in ounces of water yesterday? And I get the same response. Usually less than 50% of people consume half their body weight in ounces of water, which is the right amount of water that your body needs in order to function optimally. So that's something that's very important. Another great strategy when it comes to anti-aging is having good digestive function. Now, I'm talking to you, I'm looking directly into your eyes right now. I'm going to say, did you already have a bowel movement today? If you put your head down because you didn't have a bowel movement yet today, you really need to start working on your digestion. Why? If you're not eliminating on a daily basis, your body's accumulating toxins. We talked about environmental toxins. This is internal toxins. You want to be having a bowel movement 1 to 3 times a day because that's what our body uses in order to get rid of unfriendly organisms. Dr. Kaysen, what is another anti-aging strategy for us?
We also have talked about oils recently, and I know that we use several different products in our office to help support brain and spinal cord function. One of the items that I love is the bio-omega-3s that we utilize, and this is from smaller fish, sardines, and they're non-toxic. So you want to really make sure that you're looking at where you're getting your oils from. We also use flax oil and a product called Optimal EFAs, which is also a mixture of 3, 6, and 9, which is a blend of oils. Your body, your skin, your tissues need oil to help keep everything flowing with the brain and the nervous system, but also it's so important for nourishing and healing the skin and the tissues. We also use coconut oil very often. You could be consuming up to 4 tablespoons a day, and you could utilize this on your vegetables, on your skin even. I have a lot of members in our practice that they use it on their hair and other items to help with the nourishment and the oils in their body. What do you have right there, Dr. Anthony?
You know, this is an awesome product. It's called resveratrol. Resveratrol has been shown to have anti-aging properties because of how it eliminates free radicals from our system. So if you were to take one resveratrol capsule a day, it was equivalent to having 60 bottles of wine that you would get the resveratrol from that. So what do you mean by that? Are you telling me, Dr. Anthony, that I should drink 60 bottles of wine? That's not what I'm saying. Resveratrol is something that's found in the skin of things like grapes and eggplant, and it has anti-aging properties. It's much better to supplement with something like resveratrol versus drinking alcohol, which is going to accelerate the aging process inside the body. So what else do you got there for us, Dr. Bob, when it comes to anti-aging?
Well, we have another product that we use. It's called the BioB complex. It's very important for nervous system function because it comes down to nervous system function. And a lot of you could have what we call raw nerves, noise sensitivity. If noise bothers you, you definitely need some B vitamins. I would seriously encourage you to look into resveratrol. It will make a very important difference in your body. Now, you might be sitting there in our office on a TV or on a chair somewhere in the world right now, and if your posture is going forward, you're not happy. You are not happy with life. You're accelerating. You just don't know where to go. You don't want to go to your traditional family doctor because you don't want to be put on some kind of antidepressant or some kind of pain medication that has bad effects. Remember, all medications have some type of effect, and they're not always good. Call our office. Come on in. Let us talk to you. Let us listen to you. Create a strategy. Do some tests. Create a plan of wellness. Our goal is for you to just go on with life, not to be totally dependent on any kind of chemicals, take care of your own personal needs, and live a very happy life. Give us a call today. I promise you, you will be glad you did. I'm a chiropractor because my goal, my passion is to help people get better without medication.
There's different types of chiropractic. I wanted to be involved in something that was bigger than myself.
I would say it's been so much more than just seeing those lives transform. It's been being able to be a part of their transformation.
Wellness is a state of mental, social, and physical well-being.
Really, wellness is from the inside out, being able to have your body make the decisions on its own, naturally, without drugs, medications, or surgeries.
We work and strive at addressing each one of those different facets of wellness so that it's really a well-rounded overall approach for an individual.
I think the atmosphere is really very welcoming. I think all three really work well together as a team.
It's much more than you would find somewhere else. The individuality of it, the recommendations, the doctor's expertise.
We do not use a cookie cutter plan. Every person that comes into our office is very unique, and they have specific plans and treatment protocols specific for their findings.
Utilizing our innovative tools and technology, we're able to get the best results and faster, and it's really easy on the practice member, specifically with the thermal scans that we do. By measuring the ambient skin temperature, we're able to measure from each assessment how the pattern's changing.
We offer digital video fluoroscopy, motion films of a person's spine, getting right to the root cause.
From someone that was previously diagnosed with ADHD and was having developmental delays in speech, working with them here and seeing the transformation of them developmentally, other things, attention span, energy, colic, all these things that are improving over a period of time.
So whether it's a little baby that's getting adjusted for the first time, or a mom that's getting adjusted, or an athlete, it's really cool to see what we're able to do and how that can impact their life for the long term.
The two things, chiropractic care and nutrition, go hand in hand, and you really need both components. You can't just say, I'll do whatever I want nutritionally and then just have chiropractic care and Dr. Bob will just fix me. Really, you have to have both going together.
In our wellness store, we offer a variety of different products. They're all professional lines and products that are tried and true. We have many different types of evaluations and assessments that can tell us what supplement is going to be best for one of our practice members here in the office, so that we're just not throwing the dice when it comes to their health.
The Drugless Doctors is very forward-thinking. It's a lot different than anything else that I had ever seen before, so I felt like I was learning something new.
We have information on social media, our website, our blog. We do TV programs, so we're always putting out good quality information, because more often than not I hear from somebody, I never knew that, or I got that information from a magazine or a TV program and I never really knew that that wasn't correct.
So being able to give them simple tools and natural principles that they can be able to empower themselves to make every day, that's really, it's really exciting for me to be able to see people and their changed lifestyles.
Come and join us and participate with natural drugless chiropractic care. Hello, this is Dr. Bob, Dr. Anthony, and Dr. Kaysen DeMaria, and I'd like to welcome you once again to another episode of The Drugless Doctor. We today are going to be talking about a subject that a lot of people want to tap dance around, but you know, we've been bringing it to you, the truth, since 2000. We're going to talk about something today that has to do with the food that you're eating and you're not necessarily even aware of what's going on. And the big box food manufacturers and the chemical companies don't want you to hear this message. We're going to talk about hybridization, genetically engineered, but this is biblical what I'm going to share with you right now. If you go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 10 or 11, God said, now listen to what I'm going to say here, and you could go and check this out yourself. You need to be eating food from seed-bearing plants. That means whatever you put in the ground should grow up, create a product, a fruit, or any kind of a nut, and be able to reproduce itself. Well, man in his infinite wisdom, I'm being very sarcastic right now, has altered what God has made is good. And man is think that he's made it better, but we're seeing our practice individuals who have ongoing health challenges directly related to genetically altered seeds. Dr. Anthony.
So we get this question a lot. Why are a group of chiropractors talking about genetically modified foods? Now that's a great question, because what you eat is so important, because that's what your body uses to rebuild itself. So if you're constantly not eating the right items, it's going to affect the rest of your body's function. So we're really concerned about you living up to your optimal potential, and knowing that if you're consuming genetically modified foods, that you're not actually getting up to that potential. So Dr. Bob talked about this briefly, but what is a genetically modified food? So it is a food that has, its genetic code has been altered for whatever reason to make it more resistant to weed killer, or to grow in a certain environment, or to be bigger than it was originally, or to adapt to certain things. What ends up happening when we altered the genetic code of food, our bodies don't recognize the genetically altered component. So what does that mean in simple terms? Let's say that our body, when you eat something, recognizes this. So I'm going to use this avocado as an example. So you eat something, it recognizes it, and it uses it, just like a hand fitting into a glove. Now when you have a genetically modified food, it's not recognizing what takes place inside the body. So genetically modified foods are not good. So it's really important. We're going to be talking about a variety of different foods that have the potential to be genetically modified, so that you can be aware, so that you make the right decisions, so that you're not eating genetically modified food. So I'm just going to create a little bit more background on it. Now, there are just about every other country in the world has outlawed genetically modified foods except the United States of America. Now, is it because the United States of America is smarter than everybody else? I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that other people in the world have come to the realization that genetically modified foods are not good for them, and they do everything that they can in order to make sure that it's not in their food supply. So I'm going to talk briefly about a couple of studies. There was a study that was done several years ago with rats that were fed genetically modified foods, and what ended up happening is this group of rats developed tumors all over their body because they were being fed genetically modified foods. Now, there's a study that I read just this week for sheep that were fed genetically modified soy, and they were feeding their young. And they tested these sheep, both alive and dead, and found out that their genetic code was altered not for the good, but for the bad. And these, even the lambs that were eating the sheep's milk, what ends up happening is they weren't even getting the food, they weren't even eating it, they were getting it from mom's milk, and their genetic code was altered not in a good way. So there's so many fine lines when it comes to the genetically modified food. We're going to talk a little bit more about what is genetically modified food, what are foods that have it, and how do you stay away from genetically modified foods. There, Dr. Kaysen.
Now, with genetically modified foods, what's really interesting that you were sharing about the sheep, Dr. Anthony, is if our overall health, if 95% of our health is composed of the environment and foods that we're putting in our body, and 5% is genetics, we really want to be paying attention to what we're putting in and on our body. And you might be asking, how come the food industry and the government and all these things, how come they are allowing this in our farmers markets, our supermarkets, everywhere that you look? Even farmers right now growing their own seeds are unable to, and they're even getting fined and sued because of using or not using the genetically modified foods. Now, what's really interesting is if you really knew what was in the food, you probably wouldn't buy it. So what's happening right now is there's a blindfold that's being put over our eyes, and they don't want you to know what's actually in your food. They don't want you to know the ingredients. That's why it's so important that you're looking at the labels, and also that you're really being a detective to see what's really in the product. Although it might say non-GMO project or organic, all natural, that doesn't necessarily mean that the food that you're purchasing or buying isn't genetically modified, which is really frightening. Dr. Bob.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to what Dr. Kaysen is saying right here as far as label reading. And I was at a seminar recently. A product might say no GMO, but it might not be organic. Statistically, supposedly, that USDA organic sign with the green emblem, those manufacturers are only to use food that would be coming from heirloom seeds and not seeds that have been tampered with. In the conversation, and I listened to a congressman talk about this and an advocate which was against the genetically engineered topic in that process, is our biggest challenge we have to deal with is a company called Monsanto. And, you know, when I was a kid back a long time ago in the early 70s and late 60s, I went to a Walt Disney World down in Florida, and Monsanto had this phenomenal exhibition there that you were able to go around and see what's going on in the world. So they've been programming people from the very beginning that they're the good guys. And I'm not saying Monsanto is the bad guy or the good guy, but they have positioned themselves to create a line of herbicide and pesticide that literally will take away weeds from an individual, but they're also creating the seeds, to the best of my knowledge, that won't be interfered with these chemicals. So in essence, and we talk about this a lot, is I recently spoke in North Dakota, and I was landing in Fargo, and I was watching all the cornfields and from the air, and it was pretty magnificent, the magnitude of the amber waves of grain, that the farmers there get cancer. They tend to get cancer more than any other area. So, you know, they have these 55-gallon drums with a skull and a crossbone on it, and these farmers are applying these chemicals to the food that have been tampered with, and then unknowingly, as a consumer, you start consuming these foods. And I know we have some packages right here that have foods that have ingredients in them that have been tampered with, and it's exactly